Hello, all, and welcome. My name is Dr. JoAnn Yánez, and I am the Executive Director for the Association of Accredited Naturopathic Medical Colleges. I'm also a naturopathic doctor and have a degree in public health. I'm a mom. I am a yoga fiend, especially hot yoga, and I'm here today to talk to you about stress. Stress is one of those things that is just part of our day-to-day, and really, it isn't so much about getting rid of stress, it's how you respond to it. And so hopefully today we will learn a few tools and tricks to deal with those stressors that come your way in a little bit more of a healthy way and notice when you're out of balance. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I started out as a pre-med. I was one of those rare birds that wanted to be a doctor ever since, and looked at a lot of different options and landed ultimately on naturopathic medicine. It really combined all of the things that I was interested in: nutrition, mind, body health, physical health, all looking at the person as a whole. I completed my naturopathic degree at what is now Sonoran University and completed a residency there as well. I went on and my career took twists and turns. I practiced as a naturopathic physician. I utilized a lot of acupuncture in my practice as well with chronic disease patients. And then I started finding that I really had an interest in health policy and wanting to make an impact on a larger scale. And so I went back and got my master's in public health and ultimately ended up doing what I'm doing now, which is running the Association for Colleges. I also have a certificate in association management and a lot of nonprofit boards of directors. I've worked in accreditation. I've worked in various different integrative medicine settings. And as I said earlier, work-life balance is really important to me as best as I'm able to manage it, and hope that you can manage that too. So if you can, I know it's tough, but let's try just for the next 20 or 30 minutes to turn off your devices and be present. And in doing that, we can maybe just start with one clearing breath to go ahead and remind ourselves that we're here. You're here for yourself. You're here to help you center and ground and get yourself in a place where you can be receptive to all things. So if you don't mind, just sitting with your legs uncrossed, feet on the ground, hands gently in your lap, just in a relaxed stance. Notice if there is any tension anywhere in your body. If your mind's going any gazillion different types of places, just ask it to center and calm. And you can choose to shut your eyes or not. And one of the things that I like to do is just, when I find that my mind is running a whole bunch of different places, take a moment and ground. So you can start with a breath in through your nose and a slow breath out through your mouth. If you'd like to do one more, and just remind yourself that you're here for you and taking some time for you. All right. With that, we're going to start talking about how to manage our day to day. And I see folks are coming in. If you feel like it, you can message in the group chat what year you are or where you are in school. So what are we going to be talking today? What's a normal stress response? What do we do? What happens when our circuits, our brain gets overwired? How to recognize that, and tips to reset your stress response. So what do you do when you are feeling overwhelmed, overstimulated, etc.? We don't necessarily have the key to like fully stress-free bodies, but we do have some answers. So I hope that you leave today with at least a little bit more information on tuning into yourself. So one of the things that really spoke to me about naturopathic medicine was this ability to combine science, research, et cetera, with this healing power of nature, our body's natural ability to heal itself. And that just sparked a big light bulb. I also love that there was a focus in herbal medicine, in clinical medicine, in clinical nutrition, lifestyle counseling, all of the things that help us address the foundations for health. And then when I found out it was medical school, I was like, whoa, okay, so you're studying anatomy, phys, biochem, et cetera. And then all of the clinical applications of naturopathic medicine throughout the 4-year program. And so if you're interested in some of the programs, we have all of those on the website. So feel free to go there. So now we're going to talk about stress. So here's the proverbial bear chasing you. Our stress response is here for a reason. It is a physiological response to help keep us safe from danger. So that I think, oftentimes people have this really negative connotation with stress. Oh, stress is bad. Stress is awful. Like this is something to be avoided. And it's actually biologically important. There's a whole cascade that happens. Imagine if you've got, you're crossing the street kind of nicely, and then out of the corner of your eye, you see a car like running a red light and coming at you. What has to happen to get you safe? Your heart rate goes up. Your alertness goes up. You have an immediate release of glucose, of sugar to your muscles so that they can activate and get you across the street safely. So there are a bunch of different things that physiologically happen in a stressful situation to get us to safety. And those are all good. The problem is that there are so many other things, especially right now, we're right before an election cycle, that also can trigger that stress response. And that's the tricky part, right? It's like, you don't want to feel like you're constantly having the bear chasing you in the woods. Like you don't want to constantly feel like you are in that hyper stressed alert mode. And if you can't turn off your brain at night, or if you can't turn down the thoughts and all of that, what can you do? And uh, so I talked a little bit about the adrenal stress response. All of this is normal. All of this is good when it is in balance and it's being used by your body appropriately. So I talked about the blood sugar response. We actually can see in some folks with chronic stress a disruption in their blood sugar markers. And so if you are flirting, or if your body is flirting with hemoglobin A1Cs that are maybe a little borderline, or glucose levels that are not quite great, what are the things that that we can do naturally to tamp down that stress response when it's not needed? And so that's the main point. It's not, let's get rid of this altogether, because it does serve a very important function. But what do we do when all of the things are coming at you, and there is that need to kind of take the reins again from all of that? I know personally, I've had to give myself a news moratorium because I found myself getting stressed out with the constant news cycle and the news poll, the polls and the political polls and the wars and all of the things. And I found, okay, I need to give myself, like, because this is stressing me out. And I found that it was a stressor. Like, okay, I need to allocate myself a certain amount of time on, when I feel like I want to do that, and only do it then. And that was something that helped me regain control over the news cycle stress that I was personally feeling. So what do you do when you're feeling the stress response? So when negative or stressful things come in, I kind of go through a little mental process. First off, assess that feeling. So what we started off with that little grounding exercise, just mindfulness, tune into yourself. What are you feeling? I knew that I was getting stressed out. And as I started tapping into myself, I'm like, okay, it's the news, and that was it for me. It's like, all right, I've got to turn off the TV. I've got to turn off the the alerts on my phone that are constantly giving me the breaking news. Like I've got to turn that off because that's not helping me right now. So understand the feeling that you're having, label it, understand it, and then notice if there is something that you can do about it. So in my case with the news cycle, I'm like, yeah, I can turn off the alerts on my phone. Like that's easy. So and that awareness is so important to taking control of as you can some of the external stressors. So recognize that, we talked about people often thinking of stress as a negative. So stress doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be demoralizing. It doesn't have to be this external pressure, overwhelming. Uh, if you focus on problems, you're going to find problems. There's that saying where when you look for something, you're going to find it. So if you're looking for problems, if you're looking for things, they're going to show up in life. And so if you do think about the stressors that come in as challenges or motivation or an opportunity, there are a lot of times when I'm faced with work challenges. And if I thought of every single one of those as a problem, I would just think of work as a problem. So if, there are always going to be challenges. There are always going to be things that you're going to have to deal with. But the more you can shift your mindset of this is a chance for me to problem solve, or this is a chance for me to, maybe get out of my comfort zone and think about things differently. So focusing on the positive, embracing the opportunity to make a change, and just shifting that mindset can sometimes be a game changer. And so that's just something that I want to leave you with. I hope that you can, put that into play for yourself. Uh, Let me ask you a question. What are some of the things that you think come into your life that you might feel are overwhelming or pressures in your life? And feel free to throw it in the chat if you'd like. So I've mentioned mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the ability to be in the here and now and be there without judgment. So this mindfulness that I talk about is an ability to tune in. So if I earlier was talking about, something shows up in life, you give it a label, but then you don't judge that label. So yeah, I'm feeling pain in my shoulder, but it isn't like, an evil pain in my shoulder or, something like that. You don't ascribe any type of intent to it. It's just pain. It is what it is. So finding out, being in the moment, uh, being able to detach from any unhelpful thoughts. Oftentimes people can get into a cycle in their brains where, one thing kind of feeds into another and feeds into another, and you get into this cycle of negative thoughts. And I have a close family member of mine who is going to be going through a very, pretty serious medical procedure in about a week. And it's been scheduled out for a few weeks, and he's been just thinking about it and ruminating about it. And gosh, I wonder what's going to happen. And is it going to be okay? And am I going to come out alive? And and just going through this whole mental cycle. And this is a very close family member of mine. And I said, I love you, but I've got to point out, like, this isn't helping. and, and, and he said, well, I can't stop it. And I said, maybe, or maybe when you get into that place, ask yourself, is this pattern helping me and bringing me toward where I want to be, or is it not helpful? And if it's not helpful, then dismiss it. And I know that's sometimes easier said than done, but if you can at least be mindful in that moment of when that cycle starts and say, hey, let's press pause here for a second. Do I want to go into a mental tailspin of, all the what ifs and what could be's, or do I want to be in the moment? Because as soon as you get into your head and you start going into the future or the past, you're not here. And so mindfulness is being here, right now, not in the future, not in the past, not in the what could be's, not what the what should be's, or I wish I would've, not that. Mindfulness is now. And so that is, it's a muscle. I call it the mindfulness muscle. It takes practice. None of us are perfect at it. But the nice thing is that when you get into the practice of bringing your attention to the moment of, is what I'm doing helpful? You know what? It really isn't. Grabbing for ice cream at 10 o'clock at night, probably not the best idea. Maybe let me put it back in the fridge. And so just being mindful of, am I grabbing the ice cream because I'm bored? Am I grabbing the ice cream because I'm hungry? Am I stressed? Like, what's the reason why I'm grabbing for ice cream at 10 o'clock at night? And just for that moment, being mindful, being there and being attentive. And you say, you know what? I really do want the ice cream. Screw it. Then you're making a conscious decision. And it isn't just this, reactive, mindless grabbing of something from the fridge. Does that make sense? So that is mindfulness in practice. So to me, it's the reset button. It's like, what do you do when your phone is acting up or your computer's acting up? You turn it off and you turn it on. So mindfulness to me is okay, we're hitting pause, we're taking a time out, and we are going to reset. And so it's a mindful, thoughtful reset of whatever process it is that you're doing that you don't think is moving the needle in the direction you want it to go. So we're going to continue talking about how we kind of flip this stress into wellness. And as I shared, there's a lot of stuff in the world, and tough things happen all the time. However, as I said earlier, when you're looking for bad's going to show up. You're going to find it everywhere. And so your perception can become your reality. Now, I'm not talking about, glossing over real things that need attention, but you know the difference between looking for problems or looking for solutions. And so really your perception of things can shape your reality. So gratitude. I am a brutal gratitude practicer. This is something that I have adopted in my later years as something that I incorporate every single day. I had to remind myself about it during the pandemic because life was getting really heavy, and I forced myself and my son to start finding things to be thankful for, grateful for. We have Thanksgiving. If you've got any Canadian relatives, they just celebrated theirs on Monday. Ours comes up next month, but we have a whole holiday for gratitude, and it tells you the importance of gratitude. Many cultures, many religions start meals giving thanks for the food, and giving grace, saying grace. And so, without getting religious, without going into any one religious dogma or another, many customs and cultures over the years have found that gratitude is a valuable tool, and it helps people feel more positive emotions. There's been research done on gratitude. There have been a number of studies that have shown improvement with students who practice gratitude, both in elementary and beyond. And this can show up in any way that you want to, really. It can be a daily, give me 3 things you're thankful for. I know during the pandemic, my son and I would kind of bust into giggles, like, what are you thankful for today? I don't know. We've got toilet paper. All right. We've got food in the fridge. We have all of us. Like, it was one of those things where when things were really heavy during all of the lockdowns, I found myself like, all right, I got to dig into my own toolbox here and start pulling in some of the things that I know help my mental health. And so there is data, there are research studies that have been done on gratitude, and it really does impact the emotions. So do any of you kind of raise your hands? Do any of you have gratitude practices? One, maybe. One grateful person. Okay, another. All right, thanks. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be, before you go to bed at night, what were three good things that happened today? Or if you're having trouble finding three, start with one. And just, let that be the last thought of your day as you're going to sleep, is gratitude for something good that happened that day. And it can be as easy as that. It can get more complicated with journals and writing things down, but pick what's going to be doable for you. And that's the main point, is it shouldn't be a burden. It should just be something that's easy. So this is another one of those tools that I pull out from time to time, which is a happiness quiz. And so it's one of those things where if you're checking in with yourself and you're not kind of feeling as good as maybe you would like to be, these are questions that you can just ask yourself. Nobody's grading this but you. This is all for you to do an internal check with yourself. And nobody's judging this. No one is doing this but you. And then the answers that you get from this quiz, again, if you go back to that mindfulness, it's like, do you want to hold on to that thing, or do you want to let it go? So do you spend time with people who love and appreciate and encourage you? Do you have, I call it your executive board? Like, who's your executive board that you turn to for advice? Who are the people who help steer you in life? We all need it. So everyone needs, there's when I was doing my MPH, I came on a number of different research studies that talked about the importance of social support and the difference that social support makes in patient outcomes. Patients who have social support versus patients who don't have social support, and their physical outcomes, their mental health outcomes. It is so valuable to make sure that you've got your own team that loves and encourages and supports you, whomever that can be. And you might have different people for different purposes. You might have some folks that are, that encourage a certain aspect of you, and other folks, maybe the spiritual realm, maybe the physical realm. You might have different people for different purposes, and that's okay. Nobody has to be a be all end all, and they should be beneficial relationships for those people too. Do you face issues head on, or do you run for the hills? Because the issues are still going to be there, and oftentimes they'll be bigger and harder when they've been avoided. That's a lesson I've had to learn. The stuff you kind of push to the side ends up still being there, and then is bigger and badder and meaner than it was before. Are you honest with yourself about everything, about all the things? It's one thing to say things out to the world. How are you doing today? I'm fine. But are you talking to yourself the same way? Are you truly honest with yourself? So I'll let you read through all of these. I'm not going to read through them one by one, but this is something that is a tool you've got for you, and something to think about when you need to do kind of a little check-in. All right, I've got my self-care bingo. Who's getting a bingo today? Bingo. This is a check-in, and it's a funny way. I've got friends of mine who put this up on their fridge, and it's just a little reminder to, like, okay, how am I doing today on taking care of me? So you get a mark for every single one of these you did. Fed, exercise, took time for yourself, did nothing. That's one I love, because as a super doer, doing nothing for me is really hard. So that's one that I think some people like myself struggle with. Reading for fun, stretching, listening to music, doing something that is for you. And are you doing these? So I encourage folks to get a bingo every day. And it doesn't have to be a cross or diagonal. Just shoot for a handful of these every day. So one of the things that I love about naturopathic medicine is that it gave me these tools that in the darkest days of the pandemic, in different times of my life with loved ones, I've got these tools to tap into and to share with you all. And it helps, and it can be individualized. It's not a one size fits all. And so those are things that I hope were helpful for you today that I passed forward. And I just want to leave you with this Maya Angelou quote: to love life, to engage in it, give it all you got, and love with passion, because it really does give back to you what you give it to it. So with that, I want to thank you all for listening to my little mini TED Talk here on stress. And I hope it was helpful. So we have a few events coming up at ANMC. November 7th, we've got a Meet the ND Colleges, and then we'll be talking about mental well-being in December with a naturopathic researcher, Dr. O'Coin. So with that, I'll take any questions that folks may have. Otherwise, we can wrap up.
This was really nice, a nice little break. I know especially a lot of our students are getting very overwhelmed and stressed out now. So thank you for your time and for doing this for them.
Of course, and I'll send you the recording when it's available.
Great.
Everyone. Well, thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Feel better.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.